Hello, friends. Welcome to Sunday Sanity Check. My name is Oliver Ox. I'm here at Doing Better Studios and on TikTok. What's up, TikTok? To do our Sunday Sanity Check, we're going to talk about the news, what's going on this week. Last week, I tried to fit too much, and we missed the previous week. So I just tried to jam everything in there, and it was very frantic. So this week I cut back quite a bit. Amberly is celebrating her 30th birthday this week, and actually it's today. Happy birthday, Amberly. So she will not be with us today. Instead, I have a wonderful guest, friend of the show, Top Hat Johnny in the house. What's up, Johnny?
Hey.
Great to have you here. So we're going to get into a couple of things. Rather than get into a bunch of stuff, we're just going to get into a couple of things. And it's really on... I got 1 3/4 issues here, basically. I rather than getting overly bogged down in 1,000 different things that seem to be happening last week, I want to focus on a couple real big topics. As always, the number one focus of my number one focus, and the number one focus has driven our news coverage on the Doing Better show, has been human rights. I am a diehard civil libertarian. I prioritize individual rights over everything else, always. So
You're a Nazi.
Is he got it on there? Okay, good, yeah. So, now what that meant 20 years ago during the Bush administration, that made me a crazy left-wing radical. And then about 5 years ago, that made me a crazy right-wing radical. I'm not sure where that puts me. maybe 3 years ago, I should say. I'm not sure where that puts me today. I'm sure I'm some kind of crazy radical on some way or the other. But my bottom line is, I say this: I'm a rights supremacist. I think we can talk about every other issue, and I'm happy to debate economic policy and environmental policy and housing and all those things, as long as we're always respecting individual rights. Number one. So, your thoughts on that?
How deep do you want to go right off the bat?
Well, no. So let's go right off the bat. What do you got?
So it's pretty harshly too. I never thought I'd see the day. So just about myself. One of the reasons I'm on the show is that almost 10 years ago.
I think it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oliver and I met at a libertarian luncheon. And we just instantly hit it off, and then did not see each other for almost a decade.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I should get your ass on the show."
Yep.
And so here we are. What's really
and to put that, it was a Massachusetts libertarian luncheon, which is interesting because Massachusetts is one of the least libertarian places in the country. So
yes,
it's an interesting group.
Yeah, and what's been really interesting is that I was coming from I was starting right of. I would say that Oliver and I are very close in our thinking right now, and I would say that 10 years ago I was considerably far to the right of where he was. He was very far, considerably left of where we are, and we've been watching each other. We eventually became friends. We became friends on Facebook, and we're both on there a lot. And it was just interesting to watch both of us come from where we started to where we've ended up. Me coming from a very right Republican side, him coming from a very left Democratic side, and yet, the moment we met, we saw something in each other, and so here we are. And so, that being said, I never thought I would see the day where I would try and reach out to someone I knew that was left of me. Had made a post about the lady from Tufts University that got grabbed by ICE.
Yep, Ozturk.
Yeah. I've had a lot of concussions. So when we talk about stuff, there are going to be things I can't remember, and there are going to be things I remember vividly. And it's just the way it's wired.
Same for me, but not because of concussions.
Yeah. Concussions. Who makes that strain? But yeah, so. There was a friend of mine, or a former friend of mine, that made a post about that, and I know I'm considerably further to the right of them, and I tried to come alongside and be like, "This is absolute bullshit."
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, a bunch of his friends are just like in 5 minutes, it's like, "You're a Nazi, you're just a townie with a top hat, and you hate immigrants," and I'm like, "Okay, Okay, sometimes I'm sarcastic, and I kept trying to reiterate what I was actually trying to say.
Right.
And and then they just a bunch of them proved themselves to be just completely disingenuous. Like they were just looking for a fight.
Yeah.
And you know, like that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. And I was even like, and to clarify where my stance is. Like I became a libertarian because of Gary Johnson.
Yep.
Like I'm a commercial fisherman. Every person. I've learned more Spanish at the wharf unloading my lobsters than I ever did in school, and I took Spanish in school. Right? Like I have a real place in my heart for Central Americans. Like the first time I was on here, we talked about this. There was a guy named Wilmer Montero. I used to be a box him up, ship him home. Like I would have made a good MAGA Republican.
Yeah.
Right. And then I met Wilmer. And this guy, he was here. He had a green card. He explained to me how friggin' hard that was to get.
Yep.
And like I did not know what life in Central America looked like. And he completely single-handedly changed my whole perspective. Like after him working on my boat for a week, I was like, whatever we need to do to get more kids like this in this country is what we need to do.
Right.
And if my experience has been, if I hire a white guy who's not a veteran, strung out on heroin, and if they are a veteran, still probably strung out on heroin. I got two 101st guys on my boat right now, 101st Airborne. Both great guys, and this is the first time in a long time I've had last year's crew starting this season with me. So I'm very happy. Shout out to those two guys. I don't know if they want me to say their names, but if they're watching, they know. So anyways, so now I'm pissing off all of my Republican friends because they're all like, "Oh, they came here with no due process, so they don't get due process." I'm like, dude, the due process is to protect the innocent. Like you all bitch and moan about no-knock search warrants having the wrong address on them, and babies get blown up by flashbang grenades because nobody bothered to make sure it was the right address. And now you think these motherfuckers are going to get this right?
Right. Yeah, I have a couple things that sort of resonate there. Like, so thing one is I'm pro immigration in general. I think mass immigration is largely a negative thing for everybody involved.
We can agree on that.
So I think that we need to differentiate because people moving to freedom of movement is wonderful. I currently live in place A. I want to move to place B. Do it all day long. Refugees, people running, oh, my house is being bombed. Some corporation just poisoned all the water in my river. I have to move to a better place. That's a bad thing. People who don't want to move and are forced to move because we're blowing their country up, or some corporation is poisoning all their food, or bought up all the land, or etc. That is not a good thing. And the thing that upsets me about the American left, I say, right now, is they have no answer on the immigration issue. There's no, what are we going to do?
And any criticism makes you a Nazi. That's what I'm finding out.
Oh,
and
yes.
I was all I said was, this is not sustainable. I just recently found this out. Like most Holiday Inns in Massachusetts aren't renting rooms. They're just housing immigrants. And I just pointed that out. And I have friends in another New England state that are desperately trying to get help with housing. And 5 years ago, it would have been no problem. But the system is so taxed. Yeah. And the fact that I even brought this up, like it's not immigrants' fault that your life sucks. I'm like, well, first of all, my life doesn't suck. And I'm not at the bottom. Like, I'm actually trying to help people get up out of there. But any kind of, unless you were like, I want even more of them. Unless you're saying that now you're a Nazi.
But I think that's what's to blame. There is the reason that I started the show. It's because not everybody, most politically interested people. Mike? Oh, okay, good. There's something going on. Most politically interested people live in echo chambers. All those left people that we're talking about live in echo chambers where no one says, "Wait, well then what?" Right. And on the other side as well is people completely surround themselves with everyone they agree with, and anyone they don't agree with is a commie or a Nazi or this, that, and the next. And I find it's wild to me on both sides because you can't have this is a hard issue. there's no automatic right answer, right? Like, I would love to live in a world when we don't have borders and people can move freely around, but we're nowhere close to that. So that I throw that idea right out the window, right? Like, so idea one, I think the best idea, everyone goes what the fuck they want, freedom. But that's not even close to feasible. We're a million miles away from that right now. So we need some level of, we're going to have borders. Well, you have to have some rules for crossing the border. You have to have some rules for in and out of country. You have to if we're going to have countries, we have to have citizenship of the countries, et cetera, et cetera. There has to be something going on here. So right now, my big pushback this week is against the MAGA side because they are cheerleading, not all of them, many of them are cheerleading this no due process, send them to El Salvador stuff. And that's terrifying. All of you people saying, America, 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 we're the greatest, we're the greatest. You know why? Do you know what makes America special? There's one thing. Human rights. We have the foundation of this nation was on a document that said, hey, human rights. All those human rights that you flirted with in 1215 with the Magna Carta, we're gonna lay them out. Boom, boom, right down the list. Be whatever religion you want. Right down the people can't just search you for no reason. Right down the list. And part of that is due process. The government can't just go, you're a bad guy, fuck out of here. You get a hearing, even if you're here illegally, you still get a hearing. Not a full trial.
But not terrorists. Not terrorists. And you should see a Republican's face and go, oh, do you support what happened on January 6th? Oh, yeah, they had every right to do that. You're a terrorist, and now you've just lost all your rights, and they don't have an answer because they can't comprehend it. And I'm gonna plug.
Yeah.
I'm gonna plug someone on social media that I think more people should follow. Joe Bishop Henchman. He's had a lot of different leadership roles in the Libertarian Party. Guy posts all kinds of really I often joke that he's the news source that I appreciate the most because he's always reporting on stuff that nobody else will report on.
Yep.
And just the other day he just made a post. He's like, it's civil rights for everybody or it's civil rights for nobody.
Bingo.
And all I did is I said it is so hard for so many people to comprehend this. And I was amazed at how many people are like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. No, there's a lot. So that's the other thing. We always have to remember a dead internet. There's a very good chance the people you're arguing with do not exist. Or it's one dude with 15 phones in front of him in some little sweatshop somewhere. Or CIA. Regardless, one thing is really important to point out on this issue, while we have all these anti-Trump protests and people patting themselves on the back because they hate Trump, guess who didn't start this? It wasn't Trump. Trump is not the beginning of any of the things that we're saying Trump is at fault for, which, by the way, he is. I don't like any of, his administration. Marco Rubio is a shitbag and fundamentally a threat to democracy and civil rights everywhere. We need to look at ourselves and see when this all started, because Bill Clinton was deporting people, Barack Obama was deporting people, way more than Trump was. Barack Obama passed the NDAA, which basically was this terrorism stuff. So it started with Bush and the Patriot Act, effectively taking away the rights of anyone you call a terrorist, right? The Guantanamo Bay, this has been happening since 2002, right? We've been violating people's rights, systematically denying people due process for 20 years under both Democratic and Republican administrations. And every single one has done this. Barack Obama killed an American citizen with a drone. Okay, with no due process of law.
That was righteous and above reproach.
Yeah, right.
It was for the greater good.
So the problem here, as Johnny pointed out, is we've put this asterisk in the last 23 years on our civil rights, on our Constitution. We said, unless you're a terrorist, right? And what Trump is invoking right now for these deportations is the Alien Enemies Act. Which is military. He's saying, oh, well, these are invaders. The people invading us as if they're part of some coordinated military of a foreign country. And it's anything to put the asterisks on your human rights. There are no asterisks on human rights. If we believe in human rights for anybody, we believe in them for everybody. And it's not just the good guys. There's a reason we have that our Constitution is against cruel and unusual punishment. Because even if you're a bad guy, you get human rights. This is what makes a good person, is you treat people well, you stand by your principles no matter what. And this is what's going to make us a good country or tyranny. Is, are we going to have these principles that no matter what, you came to this country illegally, you shouldn't be here, guess what? You still have rights. You're going to get a hearing and then sent back to the country you're actually from, not some other country that's going to imprison you in some death camp.
Yeah, and then one of these discussions I've been having online, Will Dix is a good friend of mine. He's a Marine. Like me, his experiences in the military makes him trust the government even less than he did before. And he's a great point that he made is that this is now a crisis.
It is.
And there's there was some debate. He said there was like 15 million immigrants that have been in here, and a friend of mine to the left is like, well, what's your sources? And I'm like, well, I can't tell if your source is good or his source is good. What number do you think it is? And he's like, I don't know, there's like 12 or 13 million. I'm like, dude, we're splitting hairs, right? The bottom line, the point that Will's trying to make is there's 700 judges, and there's millions of people. So the point that I've been making is, one thing that's happening here in Massachusetts is there's some very violent offenders that, for whatever reason, liberal judges are letting walk with no bail. And I'm like what started this whole thing with my right-leaning friends, and I still consider them friends, even when we lock horns and scream at each other, or whatever. Like, they're still my friends. I said, I don't want to see ICE hanging out at Home Depot grabbing Juan and Carlo trying to get a job, putting a roof on. Like, they're not the people that we need to worry about. You should be taking all those people should be at courthouses grabbing these violent offenders that are clearly gang members that are walking with no bail. Grab those guys. Yeah. All right? Because what I don't want to see, and what I'm really afraid is going to happen is the judicial system is going to get overrun. And then, I personally know some people on green cards. I'm scared to death that they're going to, a traffic stop and they're going to be gone.
Right. Yeah. But that really, the point, both points you make, really show how silly it is the way that the Trump administration right now, really, and Marco Rubio with the AIPAC lobby are pushing this, because we have millions of people here with no legal reason to be here. Yep. We have thousands of those people who are criminals, violent criminals. Seems like that would be the low-hanging fruit if we're going to start deporting people. Go there, and instead we're finding people who are here legally, who do have green cards, who do have student visas.
I didn't like what they wrote in that paper.
Bingo. Yeah, they said,
but I also support the freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment, and don't tread on my rights, but fuck the other people's rights, because they're not citizens.
Exactly. And again, somebody breaking a law does not get rid of their rights. That's not how rights work. You don't just lose your rights because you break a law. You can be punished for breaking that law. And I think there are plenty of people in this country illegally who do need to be deported. I'm sorry that if we're going to have a border, if we're going to have a border, that's what needs to happen. Now, does that mean they should be treated like animals? No, of course not. They're human beings. Does that mean that they should have no trial, no hearing, nothing? No, we have due process of law. We keep families united. We do everything we can to make this as humanitarian as possible. Because as Americans, we have one other thing we need to come to grips with here. There's a very good chance the reason that they had to leave their country is because our politicians and corporations destroyed it. And when you're talking about your Central American friends, I mean, go right down the fucking list. Nicaragua, Guatemala, Panama, one after the other, violent invasions by our companies and our corporations that destroyed these countries, took away people's ability to earn a living and live happy, healthy lives. We've supported the worst human beings as leaders. Augusto Pinochet, and you could go down the list for a week of horrible human beings that we've empowered, that we've given weapons and money to effectively destroy countries for short-term profit. Well, the chickens came home to roost. This is why we have a migration crisis. It's a fact. That's why we have a migration crisis. The reason it's so bad in Europe is because we blew up all the fucking Middle East, and all the people from the Middle East had to find somewhere to live now that we blew it the fuck up. So we need to own the first half of it, and at the same time, fix those situations while we do, I'm sorry, send people to the countries that they come from.
Yeah, to add, one of the reasons that I have such a soft spot in my heart for Central Americans is, like I did not realize this in the 90s, but I was in Fort Jackson for my basic training as Desert Shield was going on, and then Desert Shield turned into Desert Storm.
Yep.
So my senior drill sergeant, he would tell us stories about stuff that he did in the 80s in Central America. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, then as later on, as the internet became, information became more available, and I started studying about what's going on. My senior drill was probably committing war crimes in Central America in the 80s. And this guy was he helped me become the man I am. I'm not like I have a lot of respect for the guy, but I thought it was kind of odd when, all this stuff's going on down there in Fort Jackson in 1992, and a bunch of veterans from what was that island that Grenada, Grenada invasions, and they all had CIB patches, which is a combat infantry badge, and he lost his shit because he didn't have a CIB badge. All the fucking people I killed, and I don't have a CIB badge. Well, it's because the mission he was on never existed. It never happened.
Yep.
And it's like I didn't realize it in the moment, but when I 10, 15 years later start doing a little digging and what was going on in the 80s in Central America, and oh my God, my senior drill sergeant was probably a war criminal. And I gotta swallow that. And like I say, Wilmer was, I remember asking Wilmer, it's like, why are these people sending their kids unattended across the border? And his straight answer was, this kid was 22 years old. His straight answer was, John, if we send our kids, they might not die. If they stay, they will die, or they'll end up in a gang.
Yeah.
So it's like the less it's almost like in nature when a turtle has 500 babies, so one of them will survive.
Yeah. No,
and that was a real eye opener for me.
Yeah. No. So this is much more complicated than a simple get them all out of here. That's not the answer, and it's certainly not the answer if it involves violating people's rights. And if you weren't sure about this, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 on this, including 3 Trump-appointed judges, 6 judges who were considered conservative, although those labels are not particularly important to me. And again, I don't hugely defer to the Supreme Court. I think they're far too political, and I think they don't respect our rights nearly enough. I think we've seen American civil rights basically whittled away for the last 50 years since the war on drugs started through the Patriot Act. So, and the justices stood by for all
and
that.
The war on drugs is part of again, I'm just an uneducated fisherman, all right, but and I'm basing this all on when you're on a lobster boat with one other guy hauling 300-400 traps a day, you talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And this kid just shared with me how bad the cartels are. And all of those drugs coming out of South America, there's only one way to get them here, and it's up through Central America.
Yep.
And I am largely straight edge. I'm coming off of the winter season. My lobster season starts soon, so I don't do edibles starting about 2 weeks ago, because if anything happens on the boat, I need to test negative. But barely any caffeine. Don't smoke. Don't drink. Didn't smoke weed until I turned 50. And I'm just legalize it all. Yeah. Legalize. I've lost a handful of people in my life to the opioid crisis, and every time it was fentanyl.
Yep.
And I'm just you know what? You should be able to go to a dispensary and get your heroin, same as I get my weed. And the biggest reason I didn't smoke weed before was because I was terrified that there would be something in it.
Yeah.
And now that's not a threat anymore. Would Rick James say cocaine's a hell of a drug?
Yeah.
Hey, you should be able to get that. And really, I really don't care what drug it is. Make it legal, because then you take it out of the hands of the criminals, and you make it more legit. There's less crime. There's less suffering. We don't have the crisis that we have in Central America.
Yep.
You basically, all of these horrible cartels, and they are horrible.
Yeah.
You defund them.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's exactly what it is. And it's one of those things that, do you really think it's going to get worse than it currently is? We could have worse in our current system, in which drug dealers are billionaires and have have army grade weapons, in which we have thousands of people overdosing every single year. And never at no point in time of my adult life was the drug war ever effective, because I know right now I could go in 10 minutes and get anything the fuck I wanted. Everything, because there's a black market, because we can't even keep drugs out of prisons. So it just proves you there's no way to regulate private behavior. There's just not.
I want a war on farmers markets.
Yeah, right.
Because we need more farmers markets. I mean, the war on drugs made more drugs. The war on terror made more terrorism. The war on crime made more crime. Fuck it, let's have a war on farmers markets, because we could use more of those.
Yeah. So, well, it comes back to what's actually Danny's putting together some bio stuff for the show, and one of them was a quote. We had to pick our favorite quote, and I sat it for a minute, and I was like, I got to go back to my number one, General Smedley Butler. War is a racket. Yep. And that's the only people who benefit from war are the people selling weapons. The people who thought ahead of time. Oh shit! There goes that camera. Oh no, that's my camera. Oh, my phone. Oops. Hold on, I'm just gonna grab that so I can get that. Give back Johnny for a second on the camera. Thank you.
Yeah, like I say, it amazes me that the right hand leaning people that don't trust the government are like, oh yeah, they'll get this right. They'll get this right. And I got a lot of friends that have green cards. I'm scared to death that the traffic stop is going to end up with them getting deported, and it's only a matter of time before someone with a last name like Hernandez or Velasquez that has the same name of someone that's on the list that is an actual American citizen gets grabbed and can't instantly prove that they're a citizen, and now they're gone.
Right. So this is the thing, like. Again, they could just take anybody. The last name Johnson. Bob Johnson, Mr. White Dude in Ipswich, Massachusetts. They can just grab you the fuck off the street and send you to El Salvador, too. You act like there needs to be some reason behind it.
The people named Johnson don't honestly think that can happen, so they're not worried about it.
Right. But we, at the end of the day, when it comes to rights violations, anything you let the government do to someone else, they're going to do to you at some point in time. The moment you step out of line, that's coming at you. And I think... the thing that really I find myself struggling with a lot is identifying. Is that we need to identify normal everyday people who work for a living need to identify with each other or with yourself, but identifying with the government. Yeah, we need to get those people out of here. Bitch, there's no fucking we. There's no we. We need to get them out of here. You get to decide who comes over the border like it's your country. It's not your country. Our country's owned by oligarchs. It's owned by bankers and war pigs. Let's be honest. So we got to get them out of here. We got to do something about this problem. We is made up. Des, you got something?
Yeah.
Yeah. There it is. Hey, what's up, Des?
So we got a comment saying, if you don't know the grower and their methods, then you don't know if the plants are contaminates.
Yeah, so I think the nice thing about the legalization is that you have a lot more recourse for knowing what is or isn't on there. But you're right, it's not like your Twix is made legally. I don't think that makes your Twix necessarily healthy.
I'm pretty sure if I get some bad bud from Happy Valley up in Gloucester and something bad happens, there's going to be some recourse.
Yes. So, and you might be worried about the pesticides they're spraying on it, but probably not the fentanyl. So
I'm pretty sure. And that was more my point. And and I'll be completely honest with you. Like, my cousin Kyle. You might some people in the cannabis world might know him as Elmo. Unfortunately, we lost him a few years ago. When he would talk about oil extraction stuff, it was like I understood how people feel when I talk about fuel injection. Like it was way over my head, but it was really interesting. And just I'm going to plug him for a second. It's really too bad he's gone, but he kept my dog alive that had cancer. My friend's daughter had undiagnosed Lyme disease, and they'd spent tens of thousands of dollars on pharmaceuticals, could not stop the seizure. She was bedridden. He gave her some RSO and a couple of custom-made tinctures specifically for what she needed, and 6 months later she was running half marathons.
Wow!
And that's when I was like, all right. He used to refer to me as I was the pro cannabis straight edge voice that we need.
Yep.
And like, because I really don't use it. Like I got bad knees. And in the wintertime, I like to take it and go to sleep. But for the most part, no one would call me a pothead.
Yeah.
And I am the most pro-cannabis, right-leaning church. Go to church every Sunday. Take that really seriously. Like Martin Luther said, we know that God loves us because we have beer. And I'm like, no, we know that God loves us because we have cannabis. That stuff is amazing.
Yeah. No, so I will always prefer if you know someone who grows locally and is into it. That's always better than your local dispensary. And
oh, absolutely. But the
legal,
local dispensary makes it so it's the local growers don't have a reason to be putting shit in there.
Yeah, right. No, it's true.
Like it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, it's very true. I wanted to switch gears a little bit. There's something so. As I mentioned on the previous show, and I talk about a lot, it's very hard being in this space sometimes, with whether you call it politics or current events or whatever. It's very hard, and it sometimes feels very depressing. Certainly for me, I find being, when you see people who were all pro rights a year and a half ago and are now like, man, not for you, rights. It's a little hard, and when you see, and it really happens on both sides a lot, and especially if you spend time online. One thing I've noticed recently is a little bit of a joining of the left and right, the in independent media. So some people like Tucker Carlson, I've showed a lot of his clips on here. He's someone who I was entirely opposed to 15 years ago. I thought he was the worst person who was wrong about everything. Candace Owens in recent years has become a voice on the right. She's a passionate Christian, really family values, in a lot of ways old school sort of right. What I found, though, is those right people and some people on the old school left, Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, who I think is the greatest living journalist, are coming together on a lot of issues. And when I see it, it's like the conversation, the way you sort of introduced our relationship. And I see this a lot more now. It's people who are really paying attention, realizing that the left-right thing is far less important, and the large control mechanism versus the rest of us is the real issue. So one of the places that we see that is in the dialogue around Israel, the large control system. And I got so this is from Candace Owens' show, but I thought it was a really interesting little piece that I wanted to check out. Des, can you give me my screen? So
free speech people who grifted off of free speech and who won't say anything, and recognizing that this current administration is taking a turn that is quite dark. Okay, it is not what we signed up for.
So real quick, I just want to give, again, Candace Owens, someone who a couple of years ago, and I'm like, ugh. I want to give her credit, and I want to give everyone credit who's doing what she just did there. She supported Trump. She wasn't a Trump sycophant, but she supported and voted for Trump. I'm pretty sure I wasn't in the booth with her. But she's coming out, and like a lot of really intelligent people are saying, listen, yeah, I voted for Trump because I thought Harris and Biden were a nightmare, and I didn't want the country going in that direction anymore. And I thought maybe Trump was something different. The vast majority of people who I talked to over this election season who voted for Trump gave me some version of that story. The test then is, and it's one that Obama voters failed violently in 2009. But the test now for 2025 Trump voters is, are you going to hold your man accountable and say exactly what Candace Owens did there, which is, yeah, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I voted for. Obama voted, again, before Democrats get all self-patty here, Obama voters failed this test in 2009. In 2008, Barack Obama ran a great campaign and gave some of the best political speeches I've ever seen on getting us out of wars, closing Guantanamo Bay, stopping the surveillance state, single-payer healthcare coverage, really strong, and reining in Wall Street. Strong populist ideas that most people liked. So the healthcare one's a little controversial, but most people were sort of like, I'm signing up for that. And what we got when Barack Obama came into power was literally the opposite of that. He expanded the wars. We got no public option. Instead, we got Obamacare, which is the biggest gift that the insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies ever got. and we got more surveillance state. We got more executive power. He did the exact opposite of what. Oh, and then he gave however many trillions of dollars to Wall Street. And the left, the Democrats, applauded for the next 8 years. And then, oh my God, he's the greatest president, even though he violated every single thing he said. Trump voters are doing their impression of that right now. Is Trump voters? Trump ran on a whole bunch of stuff that he's not doing. He said mass deportations, not targeting people for deportations, right? A lot of people voted for Trump because they thought he was the anti-war candidate. He made fun of Biden for bombing Yemen and then turn around and bomb Yemen. So he was supposed to end the war in Ukraine in a day or something, right? I think that's what he said in one of his many silly speeches. So it is time that Trump voters go the Candace Owens route and go, actually. So anyway, I just want to give that 2 cents there. The point of all this was, it's why I, as someone who's typically been more on the left, has a lot of respect for Candace Owens, who's someone, I'm not a Christian conservative. I'm a bit of a family values guy, but I'm mostly a mind your own business guy. And Candace Owens, we have different views on a lot of these things, but she's honest and logically consistent, at least in this place.
And on the other end of things, like you got guys like Bill Maher that,
oh my God,
like. Now, my opinion of him is that he realizes that things are swinging, and if he's going to stay in business, he's got to change his tune.
It's exactly what's going on. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Puts his finger in the wind. Which way's it blowing today?
Yeah,
Okay,
all right.
that's my opinion.
Oh yeah, so here's what we're going to do to stay in business. We're going to suddenly become, how long ago was it? He was like, saying that the guys that flew their planes into the towers on 9/11 were brave.
Yeah.
And it's like that guy, I think, will say whatever he thinks he needs to say to stay relevant. But I did not have Bill Maher criticizing the left on my 2024, 2025, bingo card.
That's such an important point that you bring up, though, because I want to. It's a great counterpoint to what you didn't put it that way, but it is to what I'm saying here. It's sticking with your principles to question people who you might have supported in the past is logically consistent. Finger to the wind, what's popular today, like Bill Maher is doing, is not the same thing as that. Right. My classic example of this is Democrats on gay marriage. And it's why I give Democrats zero credit for gay marriage. You know who the first American president to run on and be elected being pro-gay marriage? Donald Trump. Because that is not what Obama ran on in 2008. You know when Democrats started supporting gay marriage? When 51% of Americans did. And before that, Democrats wanted a civil union. They would say anything else, but they would not cross that boundary until it became popular. People like myself, however, have always said, I mind my own fucking business, marry who you want to marry. That's a ridiculous thing to have laws about. But anyway. Let's go.
How do you really feel about it? Don't hold back.
Yeah, we don't do much holding back here on the Sunday Sanity Check or on any Doing Better programming. All right, so here's the rest of Candace.
We are supposed to be the people who defend speech. So why is it now I'm finding myself in agreement with Anna Kasparian and Cenk over at the Young Turks, who are calling out what is happening and how suddenly there is this squeeze on speech only as it pertains to the special topic of Israel. Take a listen to what Anna had to say on the Young Turks.
David Friedman, who actually was Trump's ambassador to Israel in his first term, he doesn't just stop at progressives and their critique of Israel. He's also focusing on the right wing as well. Take a look.
I condemn anti-Semitism on the right and on the left. I'm an equal opportunity condemner of anti-Semitism.
You're alluding to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, none of them are any good on the right. On the left, I don't like any of these anti-Semites, and I'm not shy about it. There's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can deport them, we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding, and that's what the Trump administration is doing for the first time.
Okay, now understand what he considers anti-Semitism. This guy thinks that simply criticizing how Israel is prosecuting the war is already anti-Semitic. It's already anti-Semitism. And he wants to throw you in prison for it.
So the other thing that's particularly scary in there, again, that is someone right at the center of power, that's a former ambassador, is that Trump has now said on multiple occasions about this prison in El Salvador that is notorious because it's basically it's basically a concentration camp, not a prison, and there's no rights, there's no due process there. He was caught on tape and has mentioned it a couple times about deporting homegrowns. That's what he called. You know what that is? That's an American citizen who says something he doesn't like.
They're a terrorist and they don't have rights when you're a terrorist.
But this is not, Trump is not just starting out of the blue. He didn't just wake up one day with this idea. We've been doing this. Barack Obama drone struck and killed a American citizen and his American citizen child because they were terrorists with no due process of law whatsoever. This is the path that we're going down, and it is not acceptable. What's positive about it is that a lot of the, Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur are the left. I mean, they're all the way on the left, sort of independent, semi-independent media, and Candace Owens is the right. And they're coming together on this issue, which is really, really interesting because I think a lot of Americans are starting to see this particular issue, the idea that criticizing a foreign government is some sort of racism that should be, not only is it racist, but it's not freedom of speech, that you should be potentially kicked out of the country or thrown in jail for saying something, for saying, I don't think Israel should do X. Let's be clear. Israel is not a religion. Israel is not a race. It's a country run by politicians. There's the idea that aligns with a race or a religion, I find deeply offensive. As someone who has many Jewish people who I love very much, I find that a deeply offensive idea that because of the race and religion they're born into, they're responsible or connected to the actions of a government. That's fucking ludicrous. Ludicrous. And again, we've already had people that are in these secret prisons for this reason. We have people being deported out of this country, having their green cards canceled for speaking out against a country run by politicians. And there's I got another one, a similar take. This is someone else basically saying the exact same thing that I would like to share with you. This is another member of the left. This is Cenk Uygur, who's one of the Young Turks on Piers Morgan, and this guy who he's representing the other side says some pretty terrifying things, I think.
Where they are, even if they are politicians in the West, they are going to fall because we cannot afford.
Hold on, did you hear what he just said? He threatened politicians in the West that if they don't agree with Israel's war against Iran, that they're going to fall. And remember, he's an Israeli agent. Are you saying Israel will murder politicians in the West or get rid of them politically through bribery or whatever else? What do you mean the politicians in the West will fall if they don't agree to back Israel's war against Iran?
Yeah, we will not vote for them anymore.
Oh, no, well, you don't vote for them now. You're not in our country. What do you mean the politicians will fall?
We live in democracy, and we have the right to bring them up and to bring them down. Those who agree with Ayatollah, we don't want them in office. And all the sympathizers with terrorists like yourself, we don't want them even to be in our country.
Who is we, and how are you bringing down politicians in the West if they dare to defy Israel? Tell me how you're bringing them down.
I already answered you that.
Are you going to murder them, or are you going to?
So again, this is an Israeli, a representative of the Israeli government, saying he's going to take American politicians down. This is terrifying stuff. And the fact that it's even in the zeitgeist, the fact that it's even in the conversation, is wild. It's wild.
Is it me, or I honestly, it's the first time I've ever seen this. I've never seen this guy before. But is it me, or did that guy look like how do you not fucking understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like he was almost indignant. Like, do you not understand what I'm saying?
Right. But I mean, if you saw the way that that Trump held the chair out for Netanyahu when he comes in, and all the senators like, oh my God, you're the greatest person ever. Like, it's gross and it makes no sense. And it's the one thing that gives me some hope is that real people, it's only TV and politicians that think it's a good idea to give Israel money to blow up Gaza. It really is. There's no people I meet in real life that are like, oh yeah, good idea. Let's definitely do that. That's what he got.
He acts and speaks like a Sacha Baron Cohen fucking skit.
No, it does.
It's
it is like a
exactly
skit.
that one.
It's a great point. Yeah, it doesn't look real at all. So I just think. Go ahead.
I've had a theory for a long time that Israel has got just shit on a lot of people.
It's got to be.
And he they can make people that have all kinds of power just fold. And I don't know what the photographs or what they got, but they've got stuff more than bullets.
I think it's got to be. I think the fact that we are now 2 months after Pam Bondi was supposed to release the Epstein files, it kind of tells you all you need to know. If you haven't seen the details on Epstein, he had every single room in his buildings with cameras in it. Every single room, and he had everybody who's everybody to his place because he was a financier. He had access to billions of dollars. So Bill Gates and all your favorite politicians all went down there. And I would be very surprised if Diddy doesn't turn out to be the exact same thing. If there's plenty of these, because they've known for many, many years, right? This is the FBI was doing this to Martin Luther King in the 60s, right? They found that he was a bit of a dirty boy and he liked the ladies, so they held that over his head, told him to kill himself, pictures, the whole nine. It's blackmail works. Blackmail. There has to be some logical reason why this is the case, because there's no logical reason based on what we see that it makes sense that a small country in the Middle East would basically dictate our foreign policy for the last 30 years. And this talk of war with Iran, I mean, that's a whole nother level of insanity. Talk about not learning your fucking lessons. Like, Iraq was 22 years ago. Afghanistan, and we know that they lied. It's documented now they lied. They knew damn well that Osama bin Laden was not in fucking Afghanistan, and they sent my friends off to get shot over this and die. We lost 8,000 personnel, U.S. service personnel in combat in the war on terror, and over 30,000 to suicide. Why do you think that is? Is it because they were the good guys over there saving the world? No, it's because they knew exactly what they were doing. They were guarding heroin fields in Afghanistan, and they were terrorizing poor people around the world for some stupid fucking reason while they wasted $8 trillion of America's money. You think
to replace the Taliban with an even more well-armed Taliban?
With the Taliban plus tanks and fighter jets, right? And look what we didn't. After saying terrorists are the worst, what we got to get Al Qaeda and ISIS and and then guess who we just put in charge in Syria? Al Qaeda and ISIS. That's literally who we just put in charge in Syria. And Bashar al-Assad, who was protecting the Christian minorities there and making sure they weren't getting killed by Muslim mobs. Well, guess who's not there anymore protecting those people? Guess who we put in power? Oh, the Muslim mobs. So, the idea that anything positive can come out of us bombing, invading, attacking, etc. Iran is ludicrous. And again, if whatever news source that you're watching that's got you believing it's a good idea for us to start another war is fucking lying to you and hates you. They hate you. I'm sorry that they want to take your money and do things you would never ever do with it. I say this over and over again. The worst moral thing I've ever done in my life, and it's not close, is pay my federal taxes. The things that have been done with my federal tax dollars are disgusting. Murder and rape and theft and money laundering, and we could go down the line for a week of all the horrible things that I would never ever do. I'm kind of a shitbag in a lot of ways. I've done some bad things in my life, not even on the scope or the level of that stuff, not even close. And I would hope for everybody out there the same is true for you, that there's nothing you've ever done that's anywhere near as morally bad as the taxes that you paid. Desmond.
We also have another comment asking, what are your thoughts on Real ID?
Ooh, that's a good one. Johnny, you want to go first? What do you think about Real ID?
I personally am going to do everything I can to never get one. And if that means I can't fly on an airplane again, that's fine. I'm not sure. I was actually just reading about this yesterday. If you could actually cross state lines without one, because I just wanted to see. I mean, it wouldn't stop me, but I just wanted to see. But yeah, it's a domestic passport. They can dress it up however the hell they want. It's a domestic passport.
It's also explicitly unconstitutional. The Constitution is very clear that there's no place for things like this.
I had that comment fact checked. That's actually goes against community standards.
Okay.
It's uninclusive.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. I think it really. Why do we need more ID? Oh, is it part of the immigration thing? Because if it is part of the immigration thing, that gets pretty scary because I don't know how you use another piece of ID. Like, it's not like all these people got over the border because they didn't, because we didn't have real ID yet. No, I mean, the Biden administration pretty much left the border wide the fuck open. NGOs set up stops all the way up the path to get people in here. No part of this immigration was an accident. So there's thing one. Thing two, they've been trying to push this digital passport shit, this local passport, since the Patriot Act. I think, again, from someone who doesn't believe that most of politics are real and thinks that most of the decisions are made behind doors, I think the Biden and the Trump administration are effectively working in concert. I think it's problem, reaction, solution. We're going to create an immigration problem that makes us need an ID so that we can push the ID. That's my take on it. I don't see why I need any more identification to go from one state to another or to go on a plane. I remember the good old days before 9/11 when you could just go on a plane and it was fine. And you didn't have to have anybody point a machine gun at you, and you didn't have to go through the naked machine that cost the U.S. taxpayer however many millions of dollars. We didn't have to employ a bunch of effectively useless people who can't get gainful employment anywhere else as TSA agents to look in my bag to make sure I don't have a bottle of water or something. Like, it's ridiculous.
How did you stay safe without putting the bottles of liquid that might be bombs into a trash can with the other bottles of liquids that might be bombs?
And getting fucking groped every single time you go in there.
Yeah.
But I like that part.
You got to whisper sweet nothings to them when they're fondling your balls.
Hey, let me add a layer to what you were just talking about. So I think that, to your point, that the opening of the borders and allowing the mass migration, I think that the situation that we're in now is such that we now have a building that's full of people that's on fire. And the only way to put that fire out is to drain the reservoir that's going to water the fields for the crops. So we have to choose between putting this fire out with all these people in it to save all these people. But if we do that, then everyone's going to starve if they survive because we won't have any crops. It's like, that's just kind of, I'm just trying to draw a picture.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's an impossible situation. There's no way for this, there are people on the left that are like, somehow think that every single immigrant is completely innocent and that we just that
it's not a problem.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's not about the innocence or guilt of the individual people. I think is effectively irrelevant. It is a problem to bring in 30 million people who don't speak the language. But that's just a problem if you did it any other place.
And to my left-leaning friends, they're gonna be like, "Oh, where's your source for 30 million? Where are you getting those numbers?"
Sure.
Let's say it's 10 million.
Sure.
That's the number that I'm hearing from the left. Let's say it's 10 million. That's still there's a reason that, everyone's like, "Oh my God, why is rent so high?" I don't know. 10 million more people need a place to live, and now I'm a townie in a top hat because that's a racist.
Right.
That hates immigrants because I brought that point up.
No, but again, I think to me it seems like these problems are created so that they can have a solution.
No, agreed,
and
agreed.
This,
and if for those people that are like, no, there isn't a uniparty, it's the left and the right fighting each other. Well, what the left just did is they just took a whole bunch of hand grenades, pulled the pins out, and said, "Here, your problem now." There's no way that you can get rid of all the hand grenades. Well, at least some of them going off.
Yeah. No. It's true.
See, look, the hand grenade went off on their watch, not ours.
Right. But and again, I think we need to be clear. You can say mass immigration is a bad idea and not be against immigrants. I have no problem with the individual trying to make their life better. I have one proposed solution. There's a few. So let's talk about solutions for a minute.
Yeah,
so
actually, I do want to talk about that.
Yeah. So couple things. So obviously the easy things, don't go to war with Iran. Right. Let's stop having foreign policy that destroys other places and causes immigration. So that's thing one. So I think that should be non-controversial. Thing two, a little more controversial. And I think that this can be a bit of a slippery slope. This is a touchy one, but I think there is a the people on the right will refer to it as a welfare magnet. There is an incentive for people to come to this country illegally. It was a clear incentive over the last few years when there were NGOs that were actually helping people come across the border illegally. But I think I would like as close to an open border policy as possible. The only thing that would make that possible is to have citizenship on its own level. So I think that people should be able to come in this country, get a work visa like that. Boom, go online, work visa. I want to work at this farm. There we go. You hire me. Good. Boom, boom, boom. Pay my $10 fee. Here's my work visa. I'm good to go. I don't think that should get you any benefits other than protection of the law, the basics of decency. Right. Yes. So the people should be able to come and go as they please. But we cannot realistically provide benefits. We can't provide welfare benefits for 8 billion people. And theoretically, that's what you're opening the door for, right? Like anyone who can get here legally in any way, shape, or form, we're going to say, oh, you can come in and get benefits. So I think that would be one way to stop illegal immigration from happening. You want the real silver bullet, and it's this one. Anytime you find people, illegal immigrants working, you go into that place that they're working and you lock up the hiring manager and you throw them in jail. And then you fine that place of business $1 million for every illegal immigrant that they've hired. Illegal immigration will stop fucking tomorrow. We want to put the onus to stop this problem. It's a two-way deal. Someone comes here to work illegally. There's two people involved in this transaction. There's the person who's probably leaving someplace, a war-torn country, or somewhere they have no economic opportunity, going through the fucking jungle and under thing, or maybe they're flying in and they're violating their travel visa or something. But they're risking their life and livelihood to be in this country so they can feed their family or provide a better future for themselves. That person has some choice, but not very much. The other person in this interaction is hiring manager Bob, who knows that if he hires Pedro for his meat processing plant, he can pay Pedro $7 an hour. He can make Pedro work 60 hours a week and not give him overtime. And if Pedro cuts his thumb off in the machine, he can tell Pedro to get the fuck out and he doesn't have to pay him any workers' comp. That guy has 100% decision-making ability. He could instead hire someone for $14 an hour who's here legally and pay all their workers' comp. But he's making an economic decision. If we're going to throw people in jail, throw that fucking guy in jail. And there's thousands of that guy all across the country. People making a financial decision to benefit themselves by hiring illegal immigrants. If you put those people in jail, there will be no jobs available for people coming here legally, because no one's going to want to risk getting thrown in jail and costing their company millions and millions of dollars by hiring somebody illegal. It would solve the problem. Those are my 3 steps. Stop destroying other countries. Get rid of the magnet. Don't have benefits for people who aren't here legally or aren't citizens. And put the hiring managers in jail.
So I largely agree with you. My point that actually got me in trouble online was, I said, you said worst first. Let's go worst first. Like, take all these. Don't be going to Home Depot and grabbing guys trying to get a roofing job. Right. They're not the problem.
Right.
I absolutely agree with you on the work permits, and I actually think that we might be moving in that direction. I had a kid work for me for almost a month this summer, and didn't speak any English. I had to get a translator on my phone to communicate with this kid. Showed up to work every day, did a great job, but he got seasick, so it just didn't work. And we tried everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And then I wrote him a wonderful letter of recommendation, like just hire this kid.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're fishing, he'll do a good job. Like, literally. But he gave me a Social Security card that had a number on it, and it said not for benefits, for work only. And I'm like, oh. Yeah. Well, cool. Because I didn't want to be the guy that you're talking about,
right?
And I paid him the same percentage. So fishing crews generally fish for a percentage of the catch.
Oh, okay.
It's not hourly. It's and actually, then I don't have employees. I issue 1099s.
So they're contractors.
Yeah. So we'll go out. We'll haul our traps, whatever we catch in lobsters, minus bait and fuel, and then they get a percentage of the catch. Typically, in my fishery, it's between 10 and 20% of the catch.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I've it's interesting because of these guys that would tell me I was such a horrible human being for hating immigrants. I'm like, you ever paid an immigrant $40 an hour? Because I have.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap for our Sunday sanity check because we are late as always. We're gonna take a quick 5-minute pause. Come back with the Doing Better show. It'll be a much chiller conversation for the rest of the evening. Thank you guys. We'll be right back in 5 minutes. Good.